How's it going, everybody? Martha Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. Today, y'all, we are looking at Amazing Spider-Man issue number 116. This issue was released in October of 1972, and the cover date is January of 1973. And today, we are looking at the first appearance of a brand new villain that Spider-Man will be coming up against. He is the Smasher. Who is the Smasher, and how does he relate to what's going on with this campaign that's going on with Richard Raleigh? You'll find all this out in today's issue, so do not click away. We have another exciting classic tale to look at as we are continuing to progress here in the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1 series. This issue was brought to you by some great people here. We have Jerry Conway doing the writing on this issue. We have Jim Mooney on the inking. John Romita Sr., of course, doing the artwork. And we have Roy Thomas doing the editing on this issue. So let's go ahead now and start this issue here right off with a bang. Remember from last issue where we saw that Aunt May decided to stay at Dr. Octopus's headquarters. She is going to be a maid for him, even though Dr. Octopus was arrested last issue and sent to prison. She has decided that she wants to be on her own and work for him as a maid. And we saw that Hammerhead was able to get away as well in one of his jets. And so now we're going to pick up where we left off from last issue. And Spider-Man has noticed these big billboards of this politician who is running for mayor of New York City. And that guy is none other than Richard Raleigh. And he has become a sensation throughout all of New York. He's attracting a lot of attention, not just old people, but young people as well. So now one thing that Spider-Man needs to do is he needs to swing on by, and he needs to go to the Daily Bugle so that he can get some cash, because he has all of these bills to pay, including that bill because of the ulcer that he had. While he's swinging through the city, he sees these two painters. They're the ones that are painting this big billboard of Richard Raleigh, when all of a sudden this huge fist smashes through this billboard, and it causes these two to panic, and they start to fall here. I mean, we see that this cable wire is starting to snap here. Spider-Man is just stunned. Who the heck is this? Is this a robot? Is this a real person? We just don't know, but is this monster-looking creature? And he's known in this issue as the Smasher. He makes his first appearance in this issue. Spider-Man is going to help them get to a ledge here while he takes care of this big monster of a creature here. And I mean, Spider-Man has a time on his hands trying to figure out how and what he needs to do to defeat this monster. He throws Spider-Man down, and Spider-Man luckily webs himself up. Those two webs save his life here, and he then is going to torpedo himself back on top of this building here. And he says, "Look, Charlie, if we have to fight, how about telling a fellow why? When I meet a joker as big as you, I'd just as soon be friends." But we see the Smasher says, "You're not talking your way out of this, masked man. I'll crush you like a flea." And so why has the Smasher destroyed Richard Raleigh's big billboard? We're going to have to figure all this out. There's a big mystery behind all this. Well, Spider-Man has to save the citizens down below by preventing this big piece of billboard to fall down on them. So he saves it with his webbing, and then the Smasher's going to try to sneak up and attack him, but Spider-Man gets out of the way. Some great artwork once again by the great John Romita Sr. He is by far my favorite Spider-Man artist. And so we see that Spider-Man's going to kick and cause the Smasher to fall down below on this ledge. And then he hears the cry for help. These painters are about to fall to their death, so he needs to swing on by and finally bring them to safety here. This guy says, I sure as heck thought we were both goners. But wait, what about that monster? Well, Spider-Man's going to check up on that monster named the Smasher, and the Smasher has disappeared. Well, now that Spider-Man has saved these two guys' lives, he now needs to go and stop by the Daily Bugle. And he's like, you know what? I need to get my old mask. Because we see here that J. Jonah Jameson has been showcasing this mask like a prized trophy on this pegboard. Well, as Jameson is talking to Robbie here, we see that Spider-Man is going to snag his old mask here, and Jameson hilariously says, I'll have you arrested, you. And Spider-Man's like, don't be shy, JJJ. After all, what are a few insults between friends? Bright Eyes? You don't know it yet, Spider-Man, but you're finished in this town. You and all the other costume criminals just like you. Great, I've been needing a vacation. Ta-ta, laughing boy. Thanks for keeping my headpiece warm. Spider-Man grabs his old mask, puts it on. With a sigh of relief, he can finally breathe properly because of that cellophane mask from that costume store just wasn't ideal. Well, now, as Peter Parker, he needs to clear up some things with Gwen Stacy as well as to get some money for his photographs of Doc Ock and Hammerhead. While he's making his way towards the Daily Bugle, he's going to be stopped by Mary Jane Watson and Harry Osborn. Mary Jane fills Peter in on this guy named Raleigh. Richard Raleigh is, like I said, is becoming very popular in New York City, and Mary Jane gives Peter Parker a badge here. He's like, great, thanks, Mary Jane. I'm going to polish this up real nice at my apartment. Harry offers to give Peter Parker a lift, but Peter says he has to make his way towards the Daily Bugle. Mary Jane then tells Peter Parker that, hey, why don't you and Gwen drop by this big town meeting where Richard Raleigh is going to give a big speech, and we would love to see you there. And so Peter says, I'll ask her. So we see that Jameson is a big supporter of Richard Raleigh, and he's too caught up in talking with him when all of a sudden, he doesn't really want to talk with Peter Parker. Peter Parker's trying to get his money for these photos, but Jameson's not having it. And he says, I don't want these photos. I want photos of that big circus clown, that freak, that smasher fella. Get photos of him instead. And get out of here, Parker. So Parker gets out, and we see here that Betty Brant's going to be like, hey, aren't you going to listen to Richard Raleigh's speech? And he says, if I've heard one campaign speech, I've heard them all. I'll catch it later. And all these people are just so mesmerized by this guy. He is very well versed in his speech. He gives great speeches. He's trying to bring law and order in New York City. He's making threats towards the crime organizations. And this one guy says, look, you got to calm down, guy. You got to stop making these threats. But we see here that Richard Raleigh is declaring war on crime in New York City, and he's not going to back down. Well, the next night we see as Spider-Man is swinging through the city, he's going to make his way towards Gwen Stacy's apartment. It's about time he finds out the truth. Is Gwen Stacy going to stay with Peter, or is she going to go with Flash? Because we've seen that Flash and Gwen have been hanging out lately, so Peter Parker needs an answer. And he's going to get this answer with a big hug, and she's like, Peter, you big fool, I've not seen Flash. Flash is just a friend. And so 30 minutes later, Peter and Gwen Stacy are going to make it to this big party of 200 people listening to Richard Raleigh's speech, but they weren't able to listen. They got there too late, and Mary Jane tells them that they were just too late, and that was a great speech. And we see Jameson is right there giving a huge lecture. His speech is just way too long-winded. And Peter's like, man, that guy just never shuts up. Well, all of a sudden, Peter Parker's spider sense begins to tingle, and he looks up, and it looks like the ceiling right above Gwen Stacy is starting to give way here. There's cracks in the ceiling. Something humongous is start trying to make this building fall on top of, or the ceiling fall on top of Gwen. So what does Peter have to do? He makes an excuse that his stomach's hurting. He has to go to the restroom. He knocks out the power panel. One of the people in the darkness says, hey, there's somebody crawling on the walls. Who could it be? Somebody grab a flashlight quick. We got to see who this guy is. Is it Spider-Man? And Peter's like, oh crap, I got to hurry and fix this fixture and make it secure. And I got to make sure that my webbing is going to hold it and do its trick, or I'm finished here if that flashlight shines on me. But we see that his webbing is not doing the trick after all. It's not strong enough. The ceiling is starting to give way, and this is where we are going to leave off on this issue. Will Peter Parker be able to keep his secret identity safe here, as well as save the lives of all of these people? We'll have to find out up next in issue number 117. I hope to see y'all there. Go ahead now and drop a like on this video. Comment down below what are your predictions as to what's going to happen next. And as always, subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.